Hello everyone and welcome back to some WARNO action here as we are back. I'm back from my holiday and I'm back here with Chloride.
Hello, everybody.
And for all of you who haven't followed the last couple of weeks and you didn't follow over at Chloride's channel, you should do that because he absolutely covered quite a lot of these games already on League Season 2 whilst I was gone. So check out his Twitch channel in the chat. And yeah, let's get into the action here. Today we're gonna cover a lot of the games of the American group. And we're gonna start with Fortitude Fans versus Soyolis Gunter. And that is a fan favorite game here between two pretty wacky players with two pretty wacky division here.
Yeah, Suojeluskunta really seems to have the same kind of personality defect that I have, that he refuses, but just stronger. I refuse to play the most powerful divisions because I think it kind of feels lame, but he refuses to play any decent divisions, purely choosing wacky stuff, Berlin Command, and then trying to, in this case, Rugener, since Rugener was released, and then trying to perfect those and make them valid, and still manages to. Very much a respectable player, a pillar of the community, and I really do love the Finnish cultural imperialism of forcing you people to say Suojeluskunta.
Yeah, and Fortitude Fans is known for trying to break the game in some shape or form, and sometimes he's succeeding, like he did in the past with 11th ACAF. Sometimes he's not, and currently he's hung up on the not part of things, as he's trying to make 35th US work, and yeah, it's kind of a division that might be even worse than Rügener, but these two don't let the fun get taken away from them, so Rügener versus 35th it is here, and guys, if you want to support these players, you can do so on Matcherino, where we crowdfund this whole stuff here. And we already are up to $181 in prize pool. Let's see if we can push that even a bit further. Couple of stretch goals about to be reached here. And a couple more to go, including a 24-hour stream and a new Cold War uniform for me to carry around in the finals. And yeah, let's talk about the setup here. KSK
Yeah,
coming up in the front line. That is a pretty strong forward deployment opener here from Soyolis Gunter. All the way to the center, but not going over it. Whilst on the other side, what do we have here on the blue side of things?
we have the more powerful recon units of 35th, the cheap NG Cavalry Scouts Dragons, as well as the forward deploying recon tanks, the M60A1 ACAVs, and they are moving to take conservative positions and to basically wait out the arrival of reinforcements. Looking at the amount of infantry here, I really doubt that there is going to be any contestation against the KSK. The KSK are decent enough units, but in this matchup and this opener, they are completely superior. And traditionally, 35th has succeeded on this map, even on competitive levels. The certain kinds of specific tactics and infantry spam and concentrations of fire support and the recoilless rifles have been utilized here quite well. And if you're going to play 35th at on some map, you should probably play it here on urban frontlines. But we are not seeing Fortitude really try to repeat those strategies, but instead choosing to be even more conservative. And Rugener doesn't really have that much heavy equipment, but it does have quite nice artillery, and it has the T-72s, which will be superior to all the American tanks. So I'm not sure if Fortitude's conservative plans here are necessarily going to work, but who knows? We love to see people who have a theme. This is one of my favorite forms of player in this game. Snow Wolfie recently, after his game with Lathens, has kind of ascended to this category of players who really try out the mechanics, and I love that. Love to see that.
Yeah, M60s here gonna be interesting. This is all pre-patch, so the 35th is before the buff of the M60s in price and so on. Rügner got a couple of nice buffs as well, which will be making both of these players decently happy in the latest patch in Nemesis 3, but this was played before that, so they are still on their old shape and form. We will potentially see some of the ZPUs being brought in as infantry fire support, as that is something that Serial's Kunta... Yeah, we see it said U-23 already in there. That's going to be interesting to see if Serial's Kunta is trying to exploit that a bit more. But on the other side, we have an Eyehawk, we have a Duster, which is good fire support as well. And one recon helicopter here going in on both sides.
Yeah, the AA gun infantry team, AA gun cheese meta has been growing slowly, and I've started seeing some adoption, but it never really broke through from what I see. Of course, I don't play 10v10s. People maybe have spammed AA guns there, though I haven't heard about it. But the recent nerf of all the team from 5 health to 4 is positive in my opinion. I think it prevents this source of cheeses, and also kind of is an indirect buff to self-propelled artillery that can be moved easily from the way of artillery. But now the engagement is going to happen here. The KSK are going to try to push into the middle, and if they get into the middle hall, they will get into the right side, 2 high rises. Being recon infantry, they will benefit from both good stealth and good optics. So that's basically where they can reveal completely the enemy opener, and then maybe facilitate some kind of movement or counterattack or attack with the tanks.
Yeah, tanks here rolling in now. National Guard, M60s slowly moving forward, but the KSK with RPG and satchel charges, one of the first units that had both satchel charges and an RPG, being in a decent spot here now, and the Conquerors are flying out already as well, so it seems like the center will go to Serial's Kunta for now. ZSU there getting into a decent spot as well. We even have the Recon Mi-8 that also has some weapons firing away here, and the Duster not quite in position just yet. As we see the Reservist Führer coming in there to get the capture on. South side uncontested, so both sides here fully focused on the center.
Yeah, Fence is immediately leaning into the defensive, ordering 2 National Guards Paladin self-propelled artillery pieces, which are now starting to fire at the Conqueror's locations, or the expected Conqueror's location at least, though I think the NG Cav Scouts may have spotted something there. On the other side, Suelos Kunta is buying 2 of the SPW-50 coffin launchers, which you will most likely want to show to our audience. And these will be the heavy fists of these reserve formation trying to punch through the enemy's collection of cheap and effective infantry and older generation vehicles.
Yes, the M60 here coming in here. The mine clearing vehicles, they have to get pretty close to the front line to get it effective, but once they're there, they hit really hard and they can smack an infantry unit with one shot. And they are hard to dodge as well because they fly from so close and they fly pretty fast. So it will be scary to play against them, but sometimes the enemy oversteps with them and then you can get them killed, and that would be really, really juicy here for Fortitude fans. Krug coming in as well. The Roulette AA unit. 13 damage missiles, as they're just enormous, but they are old tech. They're not the best guidance system, so only 30% accuracy, going even lower against ECM. But you don't want to risk that for too often, as it's literally roulette, and it's Russian roulette in this case. So sending your planes in there is risky.
Yeah, Krug does get results. It just needs massive amounts of supply. In my experience, from what mostly what people have played it against me, the mine clearing coffin launcher vehicles are maybe the best in exactly this position, with so many urban line of sight blockers around here. You can quite easily get into the 1,700 meter range. And on basically most engagement areas of this map. Outside of this, they can be very situational, but on urban front lines, they're just free damage. The artillery firing and not really applying the standard pressure, forcing Suelos Kunta to move the infantry around, but no massive damage done yet. The Fortitude fence pulled the entirety of the force back and now is kind of preparing with the extra engineers to start pushing forwards. I think that is the unique way to play 35th. Unlike KDA, unlike other reservist divisions, you want to blob up and have a lot of mech with as well as helicopters with your reservist forces. So using this kind of mobility to your advantage can be the way to maximize the efficiency of this mech. Even though the mech is very slow, of course, it's older generation.
Yeah, the Eyehawk here trying to get a shot on the Lim 6, getting one down. They gotta run a pass onto the National Guard scouts in the north, getting one killed. Me 2D trying to get around there. F-16C is in the sky here now as well, though. Krug currently not in range. KSK slowly pushing forward against the National Guard scouts here. Whilst we see some more mortars. The M109's pushing closer to the front line as well. As the coffin launchers haven't fired yet. They are repositioned a bit further north, and we see more Matcherino coming in. Whilst the 120mm mortar is setting up smoke in the middle here. Not quite sure what this is for here. It's supposed to permanently smoke the middle. That is an interesting choice here, as I'm not sure if... Is Rügener really the better CQC division? They're both pretty similar there, no?
I think they just want to create an overextension. They want to get the enemy into their area. They don't want to go around peeking with the tanks. They want the helicopters to move close. They want the infantry to move close. I think it's just a way to stay still and still allow for a decent enough engagement. And whenever you want to push, you can just cancel the bombardment immediately.
Yeah, more smoke here coming in. OH flying around. Strela gets that killed though. And the M109's getting back into action here once more. Ooh, hunting for the coffin launchers, but they got moved once the helicopter got killed. So no kill there on those. And the T-55 numbers are pretty decent by now in the middle here. Not enough M60s to rival that, and with the T-72s, it's hard to win the tank fight here in general for Fortitude fans. As CEV vehicles coming in here. And on the other side we see a decent couple of Me-2 Urns and the first Me-14PL, the long-range ATGM helicopter, longest range ATGM helicopter in the game with 3000 meters, but another roulette unit as it only has 35% accuracy and only a single missile before it has to reload again.
Yes, it is the drunken stationary sniper who requires a supply truck right under it. It is an extremely situational unit, and from what I understand, that situation where it's needed or useful has never actually arisen.
So, yeah, T-55 here, trying to kill the military patrol, trying to get some shots onto the M60. M60 pushing forward here. MP patrol pretty important in this deck with all these National Guard units. So you don't want to lose that, as that keeps the rest of your units from getting that massive debuff of the reservist trait. Whilst T-55s here keep on pushing. Gunships moving forward, military patrols pushing forward as well, and yeah, the big blob here is fighting. Ooh, F-111 cluster did get a good run out there, but it did pay for it with its life, as the Krug did get it with the first shot. So yeah, fair trade there. Couple of T-55s versus the F-111 cluster. Reservist Führer goes down as well. Both sides here now starting to lose units in this ground fight, as a lot of stuff is going down here now.
Yeah, the luring the enemy infantry close worked with the Aufklärer Mi-8 getting to fire the whole of its recon ammunition, the missile ammunition at the recon squads. And only now that Suojeluskunta is pushing up slightly do they get overwhelmed. So far, this is obviously way better situation for the defender, just by the natural advantage of defenders, but also due to the fact that the disheartened units and low cohesion units are worse at attacking than defending. They get slowed down on the move, they get stunned, they have to leave their positions, and they get repeatedly fired on by artillery. We have seen Fortitude Fens try to suppress the enemy with long-range mortar fire onto the building defense line, and that just really didn't do anything. And only now switching up, or wait, are they? Yeah, now they are switching up to smoke. So the attackers' disadvantage they're also not being able to actually use this. But if you need to leave the buildings and if you are in groups, the units such as the mortars, the bombers, and the SPW-50s can actually get more results. Another mortar coming here now, Suojeluskunta.
Me2D, MI2D got the neutralization on the northern point, so we are on a +2. Both sides actually lost a decent amount in that fight. There are a couple of Matcherino just got caught out between buildings in that fight in the center, so Suojeluskunta, they are losing a bit more than maybe necessary in that fight as well. So don't believe the trade was completely terrible for 42 defense if he can repair the units that are damaged right now. Like, those units are all relatively inefficient at this current state, but if you can get them next to a military police unit and a supply truck to get them back into action and then push forward, they for sure could be worthwhile again. Coffin launchers get the leader in the middle. F-16 here, killing off 2 MiG-23 MLs. Oh boy, that might have been the most efficient F-16C that I've ever seen. Flying in there, Mi-14 went down, MiG-23s both went down. That was efficient.
Yeah, did you see the disgusting placement of the flak gun at the middle of the zone here?
Yeah,
Every time a unit tries to get in there, it immediately gets sprayed down. But yeah, the 6 AIM-9M missiles, the 65% accuracy missiles with the AA2 F-16, significantly more powerful than the European variants, which have the older generation or even fewer number of heat seekers. Looking at the build-up here, we are basically only seeing a form of defensive units from Suojeluskunta. No wish to buy more tanks, supply, Strelas infantry, whereas from 42 Defense's side, we're seeing a bunch of CEVs and a leader, kind of leading us to think that this might be a repeated attack. They did move slightly. 42 Defense's blob is getting supplied hard here, and they seem to have more infantry units and fire support on the board here. It really all just depends on if Fence can get good engagements, especially by cutting off the enemy sidelines with these mortars, because the troops there is enough damage here to destroy everybody. It's just the question is who gets to shoot.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the T-55s dying to the cluster bomber run and so on. So the M60 fire support and the Kev fire support here is for sure superior to what the tanks on the other side can do, and only one T-72 and one T-55 currently on the map. No other ones coming in right now. We see a interesting movement with the recon UATs in the rear here. Maybe trying to find an Eyehawk or something? I'm not quite sure what this is actually hunting for. Maybe just trying to find the artillery. It finds instead a Duster, which it tries to attack. It's not as efficient, and Fort Defense is already reacting. ATGM will kill the UATs. Yeah, there we go. So, no big harm done there. We are back to a normal +1, which won't get Suojeluskunta anywhere anytime soon. The +1 not ticking all that fast. Whilst the artillery is going for the T-72 here now, and it gets it stunned, and it might even get it killed here. And that would be another important unit down, yes! M109s, and then another important kill there onto the T-72.
The SPWs with the combined machine gun, AA gun thingies, the ZPU-2s, opening fire there on those buildings. Once again, just wanting to deny their opponent the ability to get these sightlines, and which also is denial of the artillery power. Suojeluskunta has already moved all of their units away from the area that is getting blocked by the smoke, and are putting their close-range, vulnerable AA gun anti-infantry cars inside the smoke, using the smoke to their advantage, because the cars can now peek out and get back in there in an instant.
Double tap with the coffin launcher on the same infantry unit, maybe a bit overkill. Getting at least a kill on that and not losing the coffin launcher to anything, but Coffin launcher is now on a pretty decently long reload time, where they can fire again, and currently there's not that much left here for fire support against all these M60s in the middle. And especially the CVs, the calves here coming forward. The T-72s would be really important right now. We have 3 T-55s and 2 T-72s coming in right now, but will they arrive soon enough before this push of Fortitude fans can capture the middle? I am skeptical.
Yeah, this there seems to be just too much on the move. The one part of the assault could be beaten back just with fire support, but the two sides, both the infantry and the tanks, doesn't seem to be
Really
enough.
important shot by the Coffin launcher, getting the stun and the kill on a good amount of National Guard engineers there. That was a really good Coffin launcher kill, but the Cavs are now pushing forward with the M60s. The Conquerors getting eliminated here on this short range, where they have to duel it out with those Cavs. They won't work out, as the Cav can just one-shot them. And same goes for the ZSU here. So this is still pretty troublesome. The T-55s have arrived in the middle, but they are still a bit out of position to get into a tank fight here. So they have to get closer in here.
Yeah, just getting into those two buildings on the right side of the zone, that really is the key. Once you can have the recon there, then your tanks can move in and get kills. Once you get the ATGMs there, once you get the M40s there, they can cover the enemy reinforcement routes and prevent the kind of mechanized counterattacks that T-55s are doing right now. The T-55s seem to be doing it quite well, despite getting now getting under fire of the ITOs.
And yeah, we just got raided by the T-Man, so hello to everybody. We're currently casting WARNO League Division 1 between Cyril Skunta and Fortitude fans here, the American group going on. And it's a classic Fortitude fans versus Cyril Skunta game. 35th versus Rügner. And it's a hot game here, as we have currently the big push of Fortitude fans coming in here. But the T-72s, can they stop it? With all the Cav stun power there, I am skeptical, as there's a lot of shells flying their direction right now.
Yeah, this is the number of shots getting fired at the T-72s means that they are getting criticals here. There's an engine destroyed and fire computer reset already. And behind these tanks that are currently engaging are a series of new National Guards tanks, all vetted up and reasonably close to military police, so they can be free of their reservist debuffs. I just don't think without infantry, without an infantry counterattack, Suelos-Kunta is not getting back here. The strength of the Americans here and the superiority of the Americans is in their ability to have reasonably mobile and large numbers of fire support. The 50 cals, the cars, the dusters out here, they are all decent enough value, and in any other sort of fight, they would not be so dominant, but in these short ranges supported by mass infantry and mass mortar.
We just saw 2 T-72s going down to ITOs. One of them was just freshly arriving and just got side-shotted there. The next T-72 here driving into them. And these T-72s don't have smoke, so once they get engaged, they can't disengage easily. They have to win that fight, or they go down in glory, and it is the path of going up in a fireball that they choose here. We see now some 130mm going for counter battery and actually getting one M109 taken out. But I believe that's too little too late at this stage. Oh, the cluster bombers! They could be big! Oh, those were some insane clusters there. I think they just took out 5 tanks there, and both of them actually making it out alive with no damage on them whatsoever. Okay, this was actually pretty impactful and gives some glimmer of hope here for Cyril Skunta. Those bombers did exactly what they needed to do here.
Yeah, but there needs to be numerous similar runs before as well as a series of reinforcements coming from Suelos-Kunta. The quick response of MI2 earns a reservist leader, as well as Polish infantry are coming up there, but that success needs to be repeated. The front line here barely has anything to stand against the tanks, and as soon as Fortitude realizes And with the M40s pushing up, I think this might be quite soon. As soon as Fortitude realizes how little there is, he'll go on and he'll probably get through.
Yeah, and there's also now most likely not much left to buy here to stop these M60s. There's a lot of the T55s and the T72s have been spent already. So I'm not so sure how many there are even left in the deck. One T55 here, as they also come with double veterancy, still fighting up here in the north. But that's about it. There's no other tanks on the battlefield here right now. Some more infantry coming in, but the UEs and all the other infantry supporting vehicles, the dusters and so on, they all can deal with that. You need the tanks here basically as Rügener to hold the line, and they are not around here.
Yeah, the Polish infantry are getting in here now that the reinforcement roads are completely controlled by the M40 and its fire support. This Fortitude fence has managed to from the defensive position. We have seen the 35th infantry spam attack in the middle, the opener with all of the recoilless rifles and all the 50 cal shitboxes and 113s. These have been part of the WARNO League myth, but I think this is a very rare slow 35th play, and it seems to have been very well prepared. Fortitude taking very daring and immediate mass retreats, for instance. So obviously recognizing what it needs and what needs to be out there on the board for these strats to actually survive. And at this point, Rügener doesn't really have the kind of stuff that can quickly come back from this. There is no Apache that can go and get a few kills and immobilize the enemy. And yeah, this even if there is going to be a counterattack, it can only be achieved for Suojeluskunta with long and arduous, slightly favorable trades against a very powerful opponent. And the points differences are not that big, and there is a lot of time left here. And I think Rügener might be the defensiveness might be the doom here.
Yeah, we see clusters now coming around, getting another kill here on one M60, but there's by now also a decent amount. Ooh, Krug getting another kill. A decent amount of Rolands here on the battlefield. So at some point those cluster bombers should die, and they still need a couple more runs here to efficiently evening the playing field. The F-16 at least going down to the Krugs, but there's only some Conquerors and a bit of infantry here now on the battlefield. The Meridas now arriving, so that card is still out there. But they're not perfect for this map. They kind of want to take the long-range fights in these matchups. They at least have the 14 frontal armor, but the 14 pen is not amazing. And they are not cost efficient here in this matchup, really. They want to use their max range that they have on the guns, whilst the Mi-14 here now trying to get south to save that spot. Currently still an advantage in points for Suojeluskunta, so there is some time here to maybe get some more plays, but it's not gonna be easy. Even the coffin launchers now without supply trucks next to them, they still have a shot in them, but they most likely not gonna get that much done here, either in the north.
I see the M14 PL actually got itself a duster. That was a nice shot. The converted naval AA gun on a truck attempted to face down all the UH-1 gunships, and the gunships landed, and one of them managed to finally take out the technical. Meanwhile, the attack up north is really seems to be nice territory for the SPW-50s, but they are firing slightly at the wrong position. The firing around the Motorschützen SVD could have maybe gotten some results, but now there's only 2 Motorschützen left to defend against these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 infantry squads plus numerous tanks. Yeah, this is like I said, it needs to be trading up, and you need to trade up at every moment, and you are not allowed to mistakes if you're trying to get back against these sorts of massive force of violence and momentum.
And we now also see A-37 Dragonflies here now coming in with a good amount of bombs as well. And there's some Krugs, which maybe will get some kills, but before that they still get a decent amount of damage down on the ground. 2 Dragonflies go down. but there is now no front line in the north whatsoever. There is a CV coming in, but only one single Matcherino in front of this. The artillery doing a decent job here, but the frontline unit's just not trading well, and that's the issue here. You can't catch up with artillery when your front line just gets demolished by the enemy units without any of your units on the front lines actually getting useful trades here. The artillery is trying its best, but artillery can only get you the advantage when you have a stable front line, and that's currently not the case here.
Yeah, Suojeluskunta routed and built defense in depth on the southwestern point Sheraton even before the point was taken. The SPWs here get a kill with a one single Motorschützen with a one single RPG 7 round left, holding the front line. The Ural could maybe go out there and resupply. There is more than enough supply here, but no reinforcements coming that way. All the other reinforcements already bought are going to counterattack Sheraton, which is probably necessary but unlikely to succeed.
Yeah, we see the National Guard engineers here getting killed off. The National Guard M60 being damaged quite nicely as well. Ihawk gets a good kill there on to the Me Too. AA still coming up here. We see a cluster bomber coming around once more. It's actually going for an infantry unit though, just to save the southern spot, and we are on a +3 at this stage. So Fortitude fans by now taking pretty quickly for this map, and by now just the toolkit is not around there anymore to really stop this from happening. T-55 here getting hit on the front line. Too many tanks actually dying to artillery. One Ihawk here going down to the artillery of Suojeluskunta, but that doesn't save you on the front line here right now. When your Matcherino get demolished on the front line, when you don't have any infantry, when you don't have tanks, it doesn't help you to take out the enemy AA.
Yeah, with Rugener, were the tools ever really there? Like Rugener, I think is it really is a 10v10 support player division. It's you can play 10v10 or team games with your friends, and you can reinforce with infantry and reserve infantry whenever your friends need your help. You can put your funny meme AA missiles to cover all around the map, and you can keep resupplying them. When you finally do your attack with your friends, you can send in your T-72s to kind of participate in the action. But otherwise, you're just kind of playing around. You're sending your coffin launchers to go get some kills. It's not in 1v1. These features don't really get to like ever manifest into anything, but they are quite logical if you're thinking of like a 10v10 support player. A noob who kind of just wants to participate and do everything, but can't handle the frontline responsibility.
Yeah, but yeah, Suojeluskunta here currently really struggling, and the coffin launcher is not getting the engagements, and the cluster bomber that took out the T-55s. It was a sacrificial run, but the T-55s were what was allowing to hold the front line against all these M60s. Like, that was the one important advantage in quality of tanks, especially with the higher veterancy. And when Suojeluskunta lost the numbers game there, the game got out of hand, because in the infantry department, they don't really stand a chance. In the long-range artillery, they had issues as well, and when the vehicles, all the fire support is enabled by there not being any tanks and not being anything that can kill those fire support vehicles on the battlefield anymore, then 35th just can roll forward, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, the 35th doesn't gets the buff of having numbers and discounts because of the National Guard traits, but in these close range blobby areas, such as the middle area engagements, the cheap and very well available military police units can just take the debuff away when it's required. So in that way, you kind of in these certain conditions, in the tight corridors, the reservist division can have the advantage. As you can see, there just has not been a lack of reinforcements for the Blues at any point. And since the very early engagements, since the first line of defense on the right side of the point with the KSK push. Since that one was breached and Fortitude got all the pieces on board, it has been a slow grind of well executed engagements versus a numerically inferior foe. And that is what the 35th, of course, wants to do. Fortitude using and sending around the Humvee MPs here, using the NG M113s to create like these infantry attacks with a lot of fire support. You know, I think there is something here. I don't know if this would work on all maps. Probably wouldn't work on Vertigo, but who knows? But I like to think that 35th has future as a situational top tier division.
With the buffs to M60s and so on, for sure, that will be a bit easier as well in the future. But yeah, military police here now coming forward. MiG-23 trying to come around, but there's just too much AA. The iHawk Roland combo is pretty strong, so you can't just use your mediocre, low ECM, low hit point spam planes as Rügener here either on this map. And yeah, the infantry fight is just too much of an uphill battle with the lack of fire support versus the amount of fire support that you can get as 35th. And by now, with the +4, there's little Cyrillus Gunther can do here at this stage to keep this going. Whilst the artillery here coming in to destroy the supply truck, to hit the M35s here. And National Guard engineers starting to get the capture here onto this point. Roland gets a nice kill there. Mi-14 going down as well. Not the perfect map for that long-range tank hunter. Wants more free maps, but then that's where the coffin launchers are not as good. Cluster bomber coming in here once more, but there's just too much this time around. And it will be pushed back and potentially killed off here. Once more survives, but there's just not enough stuff here going on for Cyrillus Gunther. You might not quite know how bad it is, how much blue there is on the map, but there's just way too much blue at this stage.
I think he does know. He's as far as experienced players go, he is one of them, like one of the top.
Oh yeah, he obviously knows that it is bad, but he maybe might not quite know how bad it is. Like,
yeah, I mean, this lack of recon is lack of recon coverage is the defining issue with urban maps, and it's not really an issue, but it's actually a skill issue where a player needs to more actively try to get their recon into places, use the C key more actively to gain a practical understanding of what can see what and where and when. And yeah, if you're not willing to keep on basically using up your recon infantry or your standard infantry, you're just gonna not get that kind of passive coverage.
Yeah, and the issue is that the Cavs, like really, it's a game about the Cav. Like when the Cav is enabled, your infantry and your conquerors on this map, they don't do jack. So you have to keep the enemy vehicle blob back, but with the killing on the T-55s early on, the Cav was enabled, and then all the Conquerors positions just got breached by one salvo of Cavs, just one-tapping them. All the infantry fights got dominated by those kind of fire support units, just hitting them with 50 cults, hitting them with those high HE weapons, and the trades just never got there anywhere once the T-55s died early on, and ever since then the artillery is doing a decent job, but everything else is struggling hardcore.
Yeah, unironically, if you're playing against a division that has a Kev and you're playing on urban areas, especially urban front lines, all the characters should always be asking, where is the Kev, if the Kev is not on screen? Because it's gonna come sooner or later, and the damage that a few well-microed combat engineering vehicles can do on a map such as this can easily be more and more relevant than damage done by bombers, for instance.
Yeah, we saw the recapture of the northern point at least by Cyrillus Gunther, but there's not enough force there. Now we only have 3 seconds here until Fortitude Fans takes game number 1 here. And yeah, a really interesting one. Good opener there by Cyrillus Gunther, but in the end, Fortitude Fans comes around with just too much spam here, and even good cluster bombers, even good SBWs can't save this in the end after too many tanks died in the early game, and then the snowball just kept going. And it was even only two dying to the cluster, but for example, the M109 here getting another 2 or 3 tanks even, like that really allowed Fortitude fans to break in there. And when those tanks were gone, the rest was struggling against all the fire support, Kev, M40s, and Dusters all helping out big time here against the infantry. Like most infantry didn't die against infantry, it died against fire support, and that's the issue here in this matchup.
That is the mechanized infantry doctrine. The infantry dies and the tanks kill. They have done the calculations on the price of the manpower versus the price of the equipment, and the equipment is considerably more precious. So and if you can manage to do this, every mechanized division has their own little rhythm and tempo and group of units that you're supposed to micro and the distances that you're supposed to engage with them. And 35th allows you to do the slowest and the heaviest, yet also the most numerous NATO mech infantry blobby activity. Only thing that they really lack is mass ATGM, but I think they compensate for that with a number of older generation tanks.
Yeah, and the F-16 that came in killing off 2 MiG-23s and a Mi-14, that obviously was quite bad luck there as well, and really shifted the air balance a good bit there at that point in time as well. That would have gone the other way around. Maybe there could have been a bit more play there as well, but that was a pretty brutal moment as well. And yeah, with that, we are going into game number 2 here. Short break, guys. Then we're going to be back with the second game in the series. So here we return, game number 2. Skunta versus Fortitude Fans, and surprise, surprise, nothing changes. It's once more Rügener versus 35th with these two. They play their favorite toys again, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they adapted on a pretty different map though. As we have Me 8s, Me 2 Urns already coming up. Decent amount of Conquers, Malyutkas here coming around. KSK pushing in here into the center as well. What's on the other side? Good couple M60s, Itos, iHawk and Roll-Ons here coming out as well. Opener, including a Yui with National Guard Dragon Scouts in there. That's an interesting deployment version there. Trying to get a shot on Gregory.
Yeah, I guess that's that pathway goes faster than a lot of the kind of the grid of roads does. They can be skipped by the helicopter. But Protos, while you were on your mysterious journey to this recently very diplomatically and strategically important region for the European Union, we had a lot of Crider games, and people have really kind of been getting into this and started appreciating it in a way that I thought and hoped that they would. Icarus, for instance, has explained very well about the zone Boris. I like to call this kind of the landing zone because for the same reasons as Icarus describes, which is that it has to be contested early on. That it's such an easily defensible location for both sides if it gets captured, that both players basically need to get into Boris. And if the blue player does not get into Boris, doesn't contest it, the enemy can cut off the reinforcement route between Elena and center, thus making it significantly more difficult to actually contest center. And the northern positions, the Gregory, especially the forest position, as well as the kind of highway of hell situation between Fedor and Dimitri, the middle point of Fedor and Dimitri also provides you with a pushing, like a spotting location to the center zone and the areas in which you generally put your CV in the center. So those areas up north can be pushed later because you have so much tree line and it's easy to deploy troops there. But the southern part needs to be contested. The fact that Fortitude Fence is going all in through the highway, not even trying to contest Boris, this basically means that they're also not trying to contest center. And this seems to be kind of an all-in, wanting to get yourself a safe route to start attacking the backline of the Reds from a more complicated angle, more unconventional angle. And I really like to see, I haven't seen this strat before, but it does make sense, especially when the expectations are that players are always going to open attacking Boris.
Yeah, it's playing a bit with the meta game mindset of everybody, and when there's a meta, there starts to be a counter meta, and this might be it. I'm not convinced by it yet, but I'm happy to get convinced if that works. Let's see if it works out. Conquerors here coming around, Strelas coming around. Like we have seen this a similar thing on a lot of maps. Like for example, Vertigo with the how much do you invest into the town kind of situation, and people then sometimes just going all in through that as well and doing like ignoring the right side a bit and just going into the town and into the center more so. And this is a kind of similar play here, just going for the buildings, and here it's just going through the state through the forest and ignoring the open field part of the map, which yeah, that
Yeah,
could work out,
go,
but,
go.
but I'm not convinced yet here.
Yeah, if this tactic is going to survive, there basically needs to be Fortitude Fence defenses getting put on Elena and the forests next to Elena that would allow them to fire at the Boris zone. Basically, the way because there is a road here from Boris that can be quickly used to move and attack the backside of Fedor, cutting off the whole attack and using these speedways basically to do these quick movements, deploying infantry into forested areas, and being unexpected in using your missile cars or whatever's. This means that if this risky attack is going to go, the road between Elena and center needs to be fire controlled by Fortitude Fence one way or the other. And this is we will see if Fence's kind of all-in mindset can really bow down to that kind of strategic gameplay necessities, or if this all-in is really going to just convoy through the back point. Who knows? Who knows? I'm excited to see this.
The Mi 8 and Mi 14 here. Checking in the north. OH going down. The National Guard scouts seem to get through. Ihawk and Roland here getting the kill onto the MiG-23. That's a nice start. The KSK though getting the kill onto the Cav scouts already. And the second one heavily stunned down. Me Too Urinder getting a good kill on it as well. So that's already a big blow. Losing your recon department completely there. And the KSK still have some satchel charges. They don't have any RPGs left though. So the tanks should be able to roll over them. Me Too goes down.
Fence doesn't know this.
And
Fence doesn't know this and is trying to bypass them. Not gonna take the risk. Didn't realize that all the 4 disposable launchers were fired. This is slowing down Fence's attack immensely. Every second is important here now, as the reinforcements are coming in BTRs at 100 kph.
Yeah, the F-16 gets the Mi-8 MT, goes for the Mi-14 now as well, gets another double hit there. These Sidewinders of 42 Fans just don't seem to be able to miss. But that F-16 still goes down to a lot of AA fire there. So, okay trade, but not a great one, as, yeah, all of these things bypassing the KSK that didn't have any AT weapons in it anymore. A big mistake there. And we have the units here of Soyuz Gunther are coming in already. So this might just arrive a bit too late. Me Too Urine's already coming in. The south is secured for Soyuz Gunther. SPWs trying to come north here now as well. As the Matcherino SVD about to unload. M60 not finding the SPWs before they can unload. So the Matcherino get out here. And they can now sit in this forest here as well, whilst ATGMs come forward. And I'm not convinced that this push is going to work out here at this stage.
Yeah, it's just the KSK delayed it for so long. Fence is getting backline reinforcements, as I said, getting a tank and an ITO with some recon helis. But yeah, just driving through, just taking the risk against the KSK could have allowed them to deploy around inside the zone and prevent this. But now, as the Motorshoots and SVD are in there, they need to be engaged on close range unless they want to present themselves, which seems to be happening. Not the best idea when your enemy has such a massive fire superiority, but yeah, suddenly all momentum of Fence has been done. Fence's vehicles are slow. The patterns are 40 kph. They cannot maneuver here. They need to engage this and grind this down. The indecision and the lack of maneuverability and the fact that the KSK just got a piece of both good and bad luck at the same time. Bad luck in missing those disposables, good luck in the enemy not realizing that there were so many misses.
Yeah, and we now see a couple more units here for the defense for Fortitude, but nothing pushing forward. At least he got a kill on all the Me-2s before they could deal any real damage, so a couple of decent kills there lately as well. The Matcherino come out of their forest and they get shredded, so there's still maybe some play here, as there's a lot of units lost here now. And the Malyutka goes down as well, so actually Soyuz Gunther here losing a good amount of units, gets the kill onto the M60 though, with the Mi-14, and that is going to be a problematic unit to deal with here, with its long-range missile. The Roland 3 has potential there, as it has 3,000 meter range on its missile as well, but everything else here is going to struggle. And the Mi-14 here now, firing another missile away. Does miss with that one. Is able to fire here once more.
Has landed.
As it has landed, and just fires from there, and it gets the kill onto the M60, just holding the long-range engagement here on this open field. Goes up with another missile here now. And yeah, the Me 14 micro there on that super long range ATGM is starting to work. Krug coming around as well, and the M60 is in a lot of trouble here against this high potency Me 14 coming out with another missile. Missing this one. Going to land here, trying to get another kill. Roland trying to come around, trying to find a shot here on it. As we have the Leam coming in for the Roland. It misses though, gets killed by the Ihawk. So that's another unit
I
down
think
here as
Fence is
another
kind of
CV comes
feeling.
in. And we have a
Yeah,
lot of
I think
gunships
Fence
going for the
is.
south. Interesting.
Yeah, Fence is feeling the stagnation, realizing that the momentum is going, and is desperately trying to get it back by just sending a bunch of gunships to go forward, facing an AA gun at Estrella. But this sort of Hail Mary attacks are kind of, I think, signifying the feeling that Fence realizes this
Yeah,
is
the
only
Me
going to turn
14
worse from now on.
got the National Guard leader in around Dimitri as well. And the gunships
Oh,
here
look
now
at
getting shut down. We have more units of UEs coming in the north. But cluster bomber here now coming in for the Roland. Doesn't get the bomb off. But the cluster also doesn't go down. Yeah, Ihawk does miss as well. T-72's here now pushing into this position as well. V14 still trying to find a kill, and we see a GG here being called as Soyolos Conta gets the W here as Fortitude Fence surrenders. Maybe a bit early, but it was a tough spot just position-wise at this point on the battlefield.
Yeah, there was it may have seemed like there was still possibility for the for the 35th to keep going on, but the lack of map control and the lack of ability, the fact that there were numerous places from which Suojeluskunta could start cutting off the reinforcement route to the main force, and it wouldn't have even been that difficult. Just get like 3 units of PTRs and you drive them up the hill and maybe give one smoke salvo for cover, and they can just make it so that even the last bit of mobility and independent action would be stripped, and then all of the forces would have just been cut off.
Yeah, and the
Those
Mi-14
engagements
just
needed
blocked
to
the
work.
whole northern push. Really well microed and such a gnarly to the unit to push through on if you don't have the right tools to get there. And yeah, the Mi-14 here really doing a really good job under Cyrillus Gunter with the micro. And once that push was halted, there was no real way for Fortitude fans to get on the map. So surrender here, draw between these two. That gets us to the next game of the group, which is Woe versus Pibet, coming up after short break, guys. So yeah, the American group is going to continue here in a second. So here we go again. Series number 2 of the day. Another game from the same group. Pibert versus Woe Is Me. And we have an interesting matchup here as well. As it is VDV versus VDV. 76 versus 56 here. 56 in the hands of Woe. And 76 in the hands of Pibert. As we have Woe here on the left side with Me-8 rockets coming in. And a bit of other stuff. And once more, guys, shout out to the Matcherino page where you can support the tournament. And you don't even have to pay anything. You can even do so via the claim code button up here. And add 25 cents to the prize pool completely for free. And yeah, if you want to help out raising the prize pool even further, you can press the contribute button and help out funding the prize pool even further. Every little contribution is much appreciated. And yeah, let's get back in here after this quick one. And let's talk about the matchup. What do you think about these two VDV divisions against each other? Does 76 have a advantage somewhere, or is it just all about the mass of 56 just being massively superior everywhere?
The amount of BNP2s that can be brought out, the fact that any sort of mechanized unit that is stationary can be targeted by the cluster mortar and immediately sniped out of existence, the lack of helicopters on 76's side.
There was a mistake made by me. I left it on 2-speed.
Oh, damn. Well,
Let's short break, guys.
the lack of helicopters on one side will be a big debuff, considering helicopters are some of the most powerful defensive units and urban fighting units. The infantry tabs on both sides are powerful, but the sheer amount of BMP2s and helicopters will increase the soft attack power of the 56th. That on this map is the crucial part. We're seeing PBAT actually play a little bit wacky, going around with fagot cars, trying to put up a maximum amount of APGMs fast around, trying to prevent the slower division from reinforcing and deploying as they want, obviously trying to get those very dangerous Rasvedka BMP2s. And this seems to be maybe working in a limited capacity, considering the Scratch had managed to shoot down the rocket helicopter with the massive 14-man infantry squad.
Yeah,
now,
the first
Spetsnaz
BMP2
GRU
already going down as well. So this is actually doing some damage here with the Luatzes. And Me-8, next one under fire as well. BTR goes down beforehand though, as the first BMP2s and T-62s here now pushing into this. And all the light vehicles here starting to suffer, and there is not enough infantry in here to really just control this with infantry alone for the 76. So I'm surprised that we don't see any of the special force infantry in here for them.
Yeah, I think the bet was that they were going to have to fight against the Spetsnaz GRU, where the Desantniki are superior. But on the Lua's fagots have only 4 rounds, and that is, if your opponent has smokes, it's only a matter of time, specifically like 25 seconds, that all of those 4 shots are going to be fired off. And after this, there was nothing to stop the Afghansi and the BMP-2Ds on moving on the sides here. As much as I hate to say this, this is the one pump jump map. You either do it or you don't. It has to happen at the start, or otherwise there's no real ability to come back to the act. The Su-24 LGP-2 will be here and will do some nice reliable damage, but that's just for 315 points. That is not enough. The there are infantry reinforcements coming in a pretty limited fashion, and I think just the combination of the BMP2s and single recon heli at this point can probably win this game for WoW. The PBAT went in on a risky kind of all-in sort of a car tactic, trying to cut off the reinforcement route, and this just did not work. There was not enough investment there. Maybe if there had been an AT plane behind this, and maybe if the points for the AT plane had been taken by not investing up Olga up to the northern town, what if? But
Yeah,
in the end, the
the Olga
BMP2 also
investment, I
just
think,
too
is what
powerful.
killed this push. Like, with only 2 Duatzes brought in by Voesme into the northern point, like, if Pibet wanted to win the southern push, they would have had a couple more units needed there. Like, a couple more ATGMs cutting off the reinforcement route there early on, fighting the duel, and 2-3 more infantry units to win the infantry fights in the town that occurred. I think that could have really toppled the fight here, but without those units being here, the fight just steamrolled a bit too quickly, and then 56 is just the ball that we know that just keeps on pushing forward, that just keeps eliminating things, and we even see Nonas already out as well here, setting up another big push here, and Woe is now setting up for the big push through that, and the air tap maybe allows for a bit of play here for 76, as that's a bit of a slight weakness of the 56. Like, it doesn't have the greatest AA, and its fighters are somewhat mediocre as well. So that might be a way to play this here as well, but you need a lot of good air runs to get rid of all these relatively low to the ground units here as well.
Yeah, if you're gonna go all in on this map, you're gonna play this tactic. You really have to go all in, and having so many 40-point recon cars with grenade launchers up on the northern side of the
Oh
town,
no, and the
just like
SU-24
get
even
a
goes down here. So
yeah
that's
get like
just losses you can't
get
afford.
Yeah, get a Rosvedka BMD2 to a BMD3 to go with the attack. Something with smoke, something that can bring autocannon fire against the enemy trucks, so that even if you lose your ATG and fights, you can stay hug the wall basically on the forest and destroy any infantry close range. There are like that could have been executed better, and frankly, the map incentivizes that kind of behavior, and the matchup meant that PBAT always had to do something like that. But I think PBAT just didn't have the poker face to not send stuff up north. It's too afraid of the Spetsnaz GRU waltzing up there and getting followed up by a bunch of BMPs.
Yeah, now we see the BMD3s coming in, but they are not cost efficient in this matchup. Like, they just get one-shotted by the Conquerors, but their better Conquerors M is nice and all, but it's not really helping them out against the BMP2s. So it's not the unit that really wins you the fights here in the long run either. A couple of them can be nice and all, but that's not a unit that is miraculously getting you back into the game, and the infantry is all that, and that is the massive issue here at this stage. Well, it's a couple of BMP2s on the other side still alive, recovering now, and more are always able to come here. The AGS found the Nonas here, trying to get the kill, but the BMP2s see it now as well, and that thing is just going to die. Well, it's the northern
Yeah,
incursion of Pibet has been finished off as well, and yeah, this game is pretty in shambles right now.
yeah, the slower but very well armed infantry APCs, the BTRDs, also were kind of a miss by. The reinforcement speed ended up like being the crucial part of those fights. I think the fire support for PBAT never really manifested. If there had been, if PBAT had played a bit more conservatively, uh, that maybe the BTRDs would have been able to fire from long range with the massive amount of HE damage that they can provide with the 3 machine guns and the automatic grenade launcher, but that was not part of the strat. Those points should have instead of going to the BTRs, those points should have been in the main concept, which is cutting off the reinforcement route and then having the Desantniki clean up, or Spetsgruppe B, or whatever you choose to do that task. But yes, it is unfortunate. Now we're once again seeing the even more Desantniki coming in with these slow transports. And at this point, it doesn't really matter. But earlier on the game, the speed And speed is so important if you want to keep up your momentum and not allow your enemy to get into position with the BMPs.
Yeah, BMP's now getting repaired. The MiG-23s have full-on air dominance in this matchup here now as well, which is the one thing that potentially maybe could get a breakthrough, but it's so expensive to get an investment into air S-76 at this point, which is one of the reasons why I don't think it's in super strong division at this stage anymore, because yeah, you don't have helicopters and your air is also really expensive for a division that wants to be fast, and that makes it a bit problematic if your frontline is already collapsing. Investing into Su-24s on their own is risky because you can't protect them without also investing into the super expensive MiG-31s, and we don't see that investment here right now. What's the MiG-23s on the other side? They are dirt cheap, and they can be brought in to kill you off. So the Su-24 here in a bit of trouble. For now, still alive. MiG-31 now coming in, trying to get the kill there. Gets the kill into the first one. Turning around onto the next. Getting some shots there, getting some damage in. But the Su-24 at the same time is going down. And that's not a good trade either. Even though a MiG-23 went down, losing your Su-24 with the super expensive LGB variant is not going to get you anywhere here either.
Yeah, the WoW is letting or not trying to contest PBAT's reinforcements of getting into the industrial zone here, but WoW has the capacity to bring out artillery. The Nonas are already on the board and then can start making a problem anytime WoW wants. There's also WoW also has recon, so they can use corrected shot. BMP2Ds are moving in, vetted up even, so you know that they are going to do nice damage. There's so many BMP2s for 56 that they can afford to vet them up. They will be able to do that even after the patch removed one of the cards BMP2 capacity. Afghansi Pulamachiki are moving in on cut the reinforcement line without actually sending an infantry to the tree line. That's really difficult for PBAT to contest. Might actually even lose some BMD3s to a sneaking Pulamachiki. And yeah, at this point, the Nonas open fire, and the infantry for WoW that is in the front line here is kind of expendable. The real fighting force is coming from behind with the BMP2Ds, especially after they get resupplied.
Yeah, BTRDs and BMP3s here pushing forward as well. There's a Nikki's on the fire, and yeah, WoW has let off the pressure here on the ground a bit, but that's just because WoW wants to take the win condition away. The only win condition that is kind of left in Pivot's formation, and that is the air, and that has happened now. 3 planes already down, and you don't get that many planes. Like, all the planes are high capacity, but you pretty low in numbers, and yeah, 3 Su-24s here already down, so there is not much left there in that win condition, and the rest of the deck is pretty basic and just a weaker version of what you get as 56 here in this matchup. So with already being on the back foot on the ground and now also losing the air, there's not really anything that Pivot can do at this stage.
Yeah, PBAT lost one of the BMD3s to the Pulas, and now it is a fortification fight for 103 points for 28 minutes, and the enemy is already in rifle range. They just don't have line of sight, and there's reinforcements are coming in. There's more meat tactics with the Okrana coming up. With the armored rocket armored trucks, the Metlas. So I think by the time the Okrana are gonna come in, PBAT's forces are most likely kind of on the run already. I think that's the tempo that WoW is trying to go here.
BTRD on the fire, ATGMs coming around. There's a Nikki and Conkers getting hurt pretty badly here as well. And yeah, the BMP2Ds here should be easily pushing forward here soon. There, and with the Nanas constantly being able to fire here from the rear, There is Nonas potentially on the other side as well, but then the cluster mortars can come in as well and so on. So the capabilities, the maximum capabilities on the other side are bigger. And we see Strela 10Ms even now being brought in here. Really, WoW doesn't want to leave anything to chance in the air, whilst bringing in more units here on the ground now as well, with Okrana, with Metla, and just winning the infantry fights here non-stop already.
Yeah, PBATs, if you look at the line of sight of PMP's BMP2s of WoWs, they are covering the frontline part of the zone. So PBAT has to leave half of the zone and relegate those positions completely for WoW. There is nothing that can contest that amount of firepower right now. The only thing that could do that would be a nice, perfectly hitting Su-24 bombing strike, but with the 3 Strelas getting bought and the complete air supremacy that WoW has been demanding here, I doubt that is going to happen in a moment. BMD3 Raspetka gets in there and starts doing some damage with a lot of its HE weapons, but that doesn't pull away the fact that PBAT cannot hold the western side of the zone, and if it cannot hold that, it's going to go for WoW sooner rather than later. Sooner or later.
Yeah, the SU-24 trying to come in again got pushed back by the MiG-23s, and that's really the big issue. Like, that the investment, the pivot into air was just impossible because of the losses on the ground early on, and that's air snowball is kind of the only way to play the long game as 76. And yeah, the short game failed, the long game failed at this stage as well, and you can maybe hope that you can do it with BMD3s, but as I said, like the matchup against BMP2s is not good. Like the Conqueror's M is great to deal with some medium tanks, but it's not cost efficient with the against other IFVs, as you pay 110 points for the BMD3, which is nearly a tank price. Well, or more even than some light tanks. Well, it's the BMP2 with is nearly half that price on 60 points.
Yeah, it's the numbers advantage here. The reason why autocannons perform so well with veterancy and autocannon units, as well as 50 caliber machine guns, I believe, is that the way that the game counts the increase in accuracy is that it doesn't give this increase in accuracy to the whole salvo, but to each individual shot. And anybody who understands mathematics will realize that this is significantly better to have 5 shots with each getting the veterancy accuracy buff than having a salvo of 5 that also passively gets the accuracy buff. And this is recently, as we have been living in the IFV meta, people have realized that you can get such numbers of IFVs, and IFVs can potentially provide so much damage that IFV-less divisions have been falling out of favor. And some people have been calling in, I think Schneefoot, I believe, or Sinon had a good idea that taking up the IFV for the infantry card should lessen the availability, so you wouldn't be able to get seven IFVs just by switching the transport, but instead you would get like 5. I think that would be sensible because the IFV is another unit compared to a standard transport. But currently in the game, you want to do attacks, reserve few cards of high vet infantry fighting vehicles, and use those when you're attacking. You will be surprised at the performance.
Yeah, another SU-24 here going down. MiG-23 finally got shut down for it, but there's so many Strelas at this point as well that any tech plane would get shut down anyways. And by now there's only like 3 or 4 tech planes left in the deck of Pibat here. So even if the MiG-31s survive and kill off all the MiG-23s in the end, if there's no attack planes, that doesn't matter at all. And we see now the big infantry push of WoW. It's not super well coordinated, and the Nonas are here for Pibat, so there is a bit of attrition here for WoW in this push for sure. As these units here get shot up, but he is getting the unit in, and it is pushing up to a +2. And once WoW has 1 point advantage here. He can even fall back again and just go for the artillery game. So he only needs to hold this here for a couple more seconds, and then he kind of can even fall back from this position and let Pivot do the attacking into him, which just will be even tougher than trying to hold on here for Pivot.
Yeah, even under all of this fire, these high veterancy DSH RPG-7s keep up their cohesion and keep up their movement speed even after taking significant losses. They work pretty well with the commander getting the extra veterancy buff of the commander, and thus surviving the pretty well positioned PBAT fire support that was concaving around them and doing a lot of damage. Still managed a tactical victory for WoW. WoW now moving the commander back into the zone, right into artillery fire, unfortunately, but may not actually hit.
And
Very
WoW,
close.
once more, having the MiG-23s out here in numbers, getting a kill right at the spawn against an Su-24. A really important kill there with the MiG-23s, and literally trying to do the job here. And yeah, the cheap affordability of the MiG-23 here coming in real nice. Well, it's the Nonas on the ground, trying to do the job here on the defense. Conkers and BMP3s trying to hold the ground here against all of this. Once we see more Dejaniki Medis coming in, trying to save the situation, but this push is going in nicely here for WoW, and he's now nearly 100 points ahead, and at that point he can get comfortable and play a bit slower, but he doesn't even need to do that as 4 more BMP2s come in here. But on the other side, only a couple of Dejaniki Medis, and the blue units here currently going down pretty quickly. BMD3 also has the issue going down to the cheap 80 gems. The Fagots are enough, and WoW adapted the deck to that, taking out the Conquerors, just putting in the Fagot teams, and that's a really cheap counter there to a pretty expensive vehicle on the other side.
Yeah, we got looking at the numbers here, we have another card, not card, but another wave of 4 vetted up BMP-2Ds, dropping off their infantry to the north side, most likely moving into the line of sight cover of that forest, which will allow it to finally cut off the reinforcement. And maybe if the BMD-3, low cohesion BMD-3, gets dealt with, they might actually be able to even drive through the northern flank of PBAT. But yeah, at this point it really means the Nonas have barely almost ran out of ammunition completely. Even more infantry reinforcements are coming in, but all of them are trying to hold onto this very small piece of land. Graphically, this is so small that the artillery strikes, bombers, IFVs could just eliminate them. PBAT realizes this and respectfully taps out. I think I said everything I had to say. The all-in needed more commitment. The basic idea was right, but there wasn't enough confidence. There needed to be more units to absolutely make sure that you win those fights. There was no future in this game in which WoW bought no future for PBAT in this game if WoW managed to get the BMP2 printer online down south, and also PBAT is investing into the northern defense. There was too many variables out there, and only one of them failed, which meant that PBAT lost the game. And this is the fault of the map. We of course do not consider two lakes games to be in any ways like respective of the player's skill, but WoW played this about as perfectly as you want to. WoW had the absolute perfect unit combinations, the realization that there was going to be an attempt to rotate into or transition into airplay. WoW investing early on, delaying into air, delaying the attack to be able to get the air. I think that's a mistake that a lot of you guys, including myself, would have made, was to keep on pushing with the infantry and thus making a small window for the Su-24s to win it back. And WoW played it carefully. WoW had the right unit combinations. WoW micro decently enough, even though there wasn't that much micro in this game. Congratulations, WoW.
And yeah, we will go on into the next one here between those two. So short break, then we're gonna back with game number 2, WoW versus Pibet, after a short quick break here.
It
So
must be updated.
here we go, everybody. Game number 2 between Pibet and Woe Is Me, and we have an interesting matchup here, as Pibet is going back to his OG division and the OG division of the game as well, with 30 US, the division that had good success under Pibet in season 2 in Division 2 back then. As on the other side, Woe is bringing around Rügner again, and let's see if Rügner can do it again. So far, a ratio of 1 win, 1 loss today, and this time against a even more opposing foe, I would say. Especially as this map is not bad for for third US, if they can get the early game through the early game. But that's seemingly what WoW wants to get them in, as WoW is coming in with quite a couple of forces here, including some Me Too Urn that are upvetted. Couple of KSKs here coming in early. And what is this down here? This is a lot of infantry here. Actually trying to go most likely pretty deep after some smoke mortar action coming in here.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the singular mortar is going to be key here. recognizing, I think this is very smart from WoW. Rugener is a division that nobody is going to ban in the picks and ban stages. You might ban second UK because you don't want to get SAS rushed. You might take out MNAD if you despise the idea of the Gurkha grind and the ATGM walls, but nobody's going to ban Rugener. And I think this is kind of a surprising ace from the sleeve sort of a thing where WoW is recognizing that a perfectly or even just well executed but well planned opener to take out Boris will, as well as going up to the northern part of town, will be able to give him such good trades that with the expensive deck of third US, they're never going to build back into actually competing. And this is one of the things. This is what I described once as 0% body fat attacks, where you have no safety net. You have to do everything correctly. But if you do it correctly, your enemy is going to not really have a solution there. And one of the things that you need to do correctly is to minimize the amount of randomness here, which also will likely mean that WoW has to invest in some kind of air superiority at some point here. But
Yeah, the
taking out some
Phantoms
pretty
now
scouts.
coming in here. Me Too Urns going down. But that's not efficient for the Phantoms. As the Hawks pushing back the KSK here. KSK actually struggling on the ground here. Ooh.
Og ran out of missiles, rockets.
Phantom gets the kill there on the Me Too Urn. But the rest of the units here now roll through. The Hawks still holding the line. Now using their 20mm cannon. But we see a WA. Ooh, the Phantoms. Can they get the kill there? Not quite. That is unfortunate. The helicopters here of the 3rd US pushed back. And the M1A1 here, a bit out of position now with its infantry around. Oh no, one of the Hawks flying into the AA guns here. And most likely going down here. Yeah, the 25mm just barely surviving earlier there, getting an important kill. The second Hawk here trying to get around once more, but there is another AA piece. And the Phantoms being pushed back. Apache actually coming in now, but that's another really expensive unit. So the amount of forces on the battlefield here, really low for Pibet.
Yeah, PBAT has to win this. This is a do or die moment, and third US has only expensive units, basically. If third US wants to act quickly, it has to bring out the Apache, and that itself is a risk. The ZU-23s, if just pushed a little bit further, can allow this Apache to take this Apache down. The Bradley and the Abrams move beyond the smoke wall, trying to get a lean in on the reinforcement road. That's very smart from PBAT, good control here. But even then, it's very difficult to stem the tide of these. Now that the AA gun, the converted ship gun, firing at the Apache, taking it out. Oh no, there are the next land reinforcements are two Bradleys going up to the middle. There is nothing, and there's not going to be anything here for a while. The like SU-22 cluster is moving in, targeting the Abrams. It lacks all recon, it lacks all fire support, all air support right now. The this is a WoW reads the tea leaves and recognize that there is a unit combination that can just take this.
Yeah, getting
And
double kill even here, and we have an early tap out, but justified here at this stage, as even though the trades were pretty equal here, 3rd US is just a division that needs combined arms and all its combined arms puzzle pieces around, and we're not quite so. It just needed to get in there, and oh boy, WoW here coming in with the Rügner rush, and it did do the job. It wasn't clean in its form that it just did only kill, but it was clean in that it exactly achieved what it needed to get done, and it survived the clash, whilst the enemy didn't. Like it was basically a game of chicken, just letting both cars crash into each other and just barely surviving, but surviving, and that was what we wanted, and that was what got the W here, getting the 2-0 victory in this one.
Woe was willing to grab the guy he was wrestling and jump off the bridge together, knowing that only he could swim, basically. That the Rugener had the ability to keep on sending stuff down the road, to keep up the momentum, and with just such small features, such as the recon advantage or the air bomber advantage, the third, like they would have been able to keep up the tempo for the rest of the game, and PBAT understood this. The third US really being the heaviest division on NATO, arguably the least versatile, really just needs to either go all in on a very select group of expensive units, or it needs to build a strong and conservative front line that can keep at least a single Bradley or at least a single Abrams holding the front line, to exist as the front line, supported, of course, by scouts, infantry, and mobile air and helicopter assets. And the tactic of using the smoke and getting the guys and getting the guys through there and using them in tandem with both the Mi2 urns that can clean up any recon and then be expendable, as well as with the very cheap and fast AA guns that very efficiently took out all the early game helicopters. It was well planned out, and PBAT never stood a chance.
Yeah, maybe should have invested a bit more into Bradleys and gotten a couple more autocannons out there. But it's tough. Like, yeah, if the enemy just throws so much dirt at you when you have all your high cost equipment out there, it's kind of tough with 30US sometimes. And yeah, really well executed by Vo. And that brings us to the final series, which will be the return of both Pilat and Cyril Luskunta from the previous series. As I said, we're gonna go through this American group here a lot, and they were pretty active the last couple of weeks. So when I was on holiday, so game number 3 of the day will be Cyril Luskunta versus Pibat. Pretty excited for that as well, as there's a potential for more Rügner there as well, I guess. And here we return. Cyriluskunta versus Pivot, and Cyriluskunta stays through to the Rügner, and we got them once more. But Pivot brings in an interesting division here once more as well, as we get Kopos Dejandovi. And that is an interesting matchup because there's no IFVs involved in this matchup. And that's good for both divisions, but that also means that it's gonna be a weird unit clash here of a lot of weird kind of forces. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. This is also before any changes once more. This was before the latest patch, I believe. Yeah, it was. It wasn't played today. So no buff to the ASU, no buff to the couple of units like the Merida that got buffed in Rügner. And it's gonna be interesting to see how this here plays out.
Yeah, I'm already seeing a direct continuation for PBAT on using the UAS, the so-called war crime trucks that used to be one of the first cheeses in this game in early access. One of the popular cheeses was opening the game with the SPG-9 cars and driving them all around the place. Nowadays, they have been nerfed significantly, especially with their ammunition, so they are not they can still operate in kind of raiding capacity and opener capacity quite well, but you need to have them supported by logistic and other units, and putting those things as kind of cheap guards. I mean, they're 45 points, still pretty cheap for 100 kph. Trying to cut off some reinforcement roads, gain some early positions against the kind of light secondary recon units, such as the Aufklärers, whereas the KSK are more obviously going into the center, where the most tightest close quarters fighting is going to happen, or they will try to push into Fedor, where you can defend with other means. And PBAT, even despite uh, playing a special forces armed division, seems to be not trying to get into those infantry fights, but instead trying to go into the so-called center point, which is the northwestern point from our direction, and sending the limited yet still capable mech units of the Polish into the middle, the ASU tank hunters, which I believe got a price buff, and using the Descent Fagots, which are the always reliable in this matchup, excellent units to basically try to impose fire control while the rest of the division tries to attack northwest. And Rugener's side, we're seeing a Spec Ops push to 2 Spec Ops to Anna, 1 Spec Ops to Elena, with a also reasonably defensive recon and ATGM and AA gun heavy opener. This could really work for PBAT. PBAT is also buying a bunch of PT-76s, which are bad but cheap, and they can strike the enemy wall and crash onto it like wet toilet paper. And sometimes the mass is enough. Sometimes the wet toilet paper crushes through and allows the actually decent infantry of the Polish to actually gain positions. But Icarus Fan Club, aka Suojeluskunta, is investing into a 4-tank push into Anna, which may be just too much for the Metis and SPG and Fagot units to immediately counter. It will be supported by decent enough AA weaponry, so helicopters won't be effective against it. And I believe they don't get great air with Rugener, but I also think that the bombers of Corpus are not the most reliable when they don't get AT planes that are that great, I believe.
Well, Corpus gets the SU-17s, so those are pretty good.
Oh, they do get them. Okay. Well, in this case, I think there might be a chance. Because the SU-17s can destroy the slow and high vet tanks well enough for the rest of the division to go past.
Yeah, and you also get the MiG-29s and so on. So the air tap of Corpus is a pretty good one. The KSK coming in here in the south. Yeah, that should be pretty powerful. The question is, can the push of Pivot in the north do the job here? And as there's only one real infantry unit there, actually on the other side, so I think it has potential here. The so-called against the helicopter, against the Me Too Urns is a pretty nice idea as well. I like the Sokka as a helicopter in general. It is a good looking one. Decent speed, 6 hit points. The Strela plus Rocket is quite fine as well. I still believe they're slightly overpriced, like 5 points, 10 points cheaper, and they would be in a really solid spot. But they still will help out nicely here against the Me Too Urn and keep this pushing forward.
I agree about the overpricement, but I've found out from StarDeck actually that the AA helicopters seem to overperform quite nicely. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the physical range difference to the planes, but in my experience, AA helicopters seem to be getting a lot of kills, especially early games. So I always buy them if necessary.
I believe it's the aim time, and they also have decent range against aircraft. Like they type the Strela doesn't have the same stats on manpads that it has on helicopters.
Yeah,
it has slightly different stats there, but yeah, we see the helicopters flying around. The push in the north, trying to work out. The UAT's SPG's 9s are just not working out for Pivot though. Like a lot of them already went down. Whilst in the south, the Lim 6 coming around here to hunt through all of this. ATGMs coming around, ASU's there in trouble. And Pivot's push in the north already slowed down a decent amount. SPG 9 here trying to move around as well. The BT-76s pushing forward, ASU as well. Whilst the T-55s and T-72s now pushing through the south.
Yeah, there's a misplaced artillery piece for PBAT in the backlines there, and with only the ASU to block this, I think once the ASU gets killed, once Suojeluskunta recognizes that there's a helicopter guarding this, a wounded helicopter nonetheless, I think that's kind of a signal that there is nothing else the helicopter is holding there because this is an empty area, and I think that will give them the self-confidence to keep moving all through the board. Even the PT-76s are moved down here to just provide any kind of contestation, to just hold this tank group in the middle here. But with the veterans above, the T-55s are just a little bit more capable. The bomber is coming in, but yes, it does get a sight. Oh no, but the MiG-23s managed to shoot it down. That was the chance. That was the moment for the Polish comeback into the plateau. Desantich commandosi are being sent in and driven into the enemy-controlled area. I think these commandos will be forced to do defensive duty for the moment. The potential for PBAT is up north, but up north, the infantry that is engaging does not have machine guns or other support weapons. They are the anti-tank units. So even with the light rocket artillery supporting them, I doubt that PBAT is actually pushing through out there, especially with the Merida tank going in to help. Nevertheless, fire support blob is moving and kind of engaging the KSK, and so far Suojeluskunta is staying relatively still with the tanks, but we will see if that stillness is going to be permanent.
Yeah, and the Leam 6 plus MiG-23 air dominance here is pretty annoying. And no air brought in here for suppressing that on the side of Pivot yet. It's only the AA helicopters, but no MiG-29s or anything like that. And that allowed the Leam 6 especially to be pretty annoying here. But yeah, the loss of the cluster bomber, really expensive there. MiG-23s preemptively were a really good investment, and that allows now T-55s and T-72s to come around in numbers. And in a numbers duel, the BT-76s and ASUs don't stand a chance. If they only have to fight one, they can stun it down and kill it off decently quickly, especially as they might get the jump on it. But if it's a drawn-out fight with their paper armor, they're just gonna go down. And that's what's happening here right now in the center. ASU already down. The BT-76 first one killed off as well. And the issue is that you lack high AP on the ground as Corpus Dash and Dovey. So even something with 11 frontal armor is a problem. Something with 15 frontal armor is a lot of a problem. And we see Pivot already tapping out here, and that is understandable, as yeah, the KD just didn't went their way at all. The cluster bomber really was the hope, and Obi-Wan Kenobi did fail in this one, as he just got shot down by the Death Star there, and Icarus fan club K Soyol's gonna winning the game here.
Yeah, the thing about the PT-76 is, does it have good weaponry? No. Does it have good stealth? No. Does it have optics or HE damage or even accuracy? Does it have speed? No, it is actually 40 kph. What does it have? A 40-point price tag and some availability per card. And if you're going to do it also doesn't have smoke, of course, so it doesn't even have that amount of survivability. It is just a unit that performs worse than a 50 cal equipped NATO infantry transport if that infantry transport has smoke. Like, even that unit will have more kind of tactical ability to change things on the board than the PT-76. The PT-76 is purely about firing against static targets that have no to low to no armor, and that the push needed to go all the way up north, and if that would have happened, the tank attack of Suojeluskunta would have just managed to go up north, capture all of the reinforcement routes, and then there would have been no power for outside of air that could have come back to the plateau. And PBAT also recognized this, trying to go in with the SPGs. Looking here, the SPGs really just did not succeed in that much. They might be a little bit overpriced for what they do. I understand what they are supposed to perform, and I understand that if they do get anything, they are immediately worthwhile, stripping the enemy from recon units. But just did not manage. Just a single T-55 is more than enough to break through every fortification on this map.
Yeah,
if with enough recon support, of course.
Yeah, and that leads us to the next game here. Pivot is here now on the line and needs to get a W here. And Soyuz gonna, with a W, still has some chances of making it into the playoffs. So let's see what happens there, as we will go into short break, and I will be back with game number 2 between Soyuz Gunter and Pivot. So here we go with the final game of the day. Skunda versus Pivot. As we have Skunda coming in with Corpus Dejandovi here on the left side. With a decent amount of stuff coming around here once more. He is playing this division this time around, but Pivot plays another low tier division, and this was before buff. Once more, guys, this was before these two divisions got the buffs in the latest patch. This is before all the good shit, especially that happened to 152nd. And yeah, it's a 152nd game, so interested to see what's going to happen there. But before we get there, quick shout out once more to the Matcherino page, guys, where you can support the tournament without having to pay anything. Just go to the Matcherino page, click the claim code button, add 25 cents to the prize pool, and get us closer to getting payouts for the third and fourth place as well. And yeah, down in the description on YouTube. And you can click the contribute button and contribute money directly as well if you feel extra generous. Every contribution helps out. And if you haven't followed yet on any of the channels, do that as well. And if you maybe have a Twitch Prime or so laying around, that is much appreciated as well. Whilst you also should leave some love over at Cloyd's channel and check that all out. And with that little bit of advertisement, let's get into the action here.
Yeah, if you feel like these maps today will not be enough for you, you can go. I have made all of my casting VODs, permanent VODs, so you can go and check out those games. You can skip to the talking parts. It's okay. I had some amazing games, including Latence's comeback into the league, as well as a lot of star deck action and even competitive games, surprising games with players such as Pro, Komi, and Tiberius Rancor. I recommend my Twitch stream.
Yeah, here we go. As we have a lot of VABs coming out here with Commandalair. And I love those units. The Commandalair with the long-range sniper rifle, the mini para, and the Wasp. All the traits. Like, all the traits. And the VIB being a really solid fire support unit here as well. Coming in, and we see some EBRs coming around, which unfortunately were overpriced at this point as well, just like the AML90. Like, all of this just a bit overpriced. And I'm really looking forward to what we will get with 152nd after all the buffs, but I'm also interested to see what Pivot can do before the buffs here, as at least on the other side, the division is maybe not the best either right now, as we have Skunda here on the Corpus Dejandovi, which, yeah, has some good stuff, but also some weaknesses for sure without any IFVs and so on. So the light vehicles actually might be troublesome.
Yeah, the one thing that both of these divisions have weaker right now, because all of divisions have weaker, is the AA gun, the infantry squad AA team health has been lowered to 4 from 5. So all of these Cerberus that we're seeing, the forward deploying 23mm Yod guns, the Zur 23 Yods, all of these will be slightly less, actually I think significantly less valid in their kind of offensive capacity. And we're seeing Suojeluskunta do a center of high vet infantry and the Desant UAS both in SPG9 and Fagot configurations, as with a very forward deploying 2 AA guns. And their idea is going to get Leonid with their close range engagements with the UAZs and a helicopter recon, basically trying to cover their northern flank. Their southern flank doesn't really need to be covered because there is the train track, hill, and the idea most likely is to start out from that position and defend against the French counterattacks of the French light vehicles that can be countered with fagots on range. One of the big things that's going to happen, that has happened now to the French division, is the Marsouin card, the extra card of Marines. Marines being one of the best line infantry in that division, and arguably one of the better ones in the game. So doubling their amount will give them a nice amount of mid-game oomph, so they don't immediately have to go into a lean attack after opening with their AA gun rushes of Commander de Leer. Commander de Leer moving really into a completely empty area. The Ecurail can maybe riskily scout the rest of the map. If they don't do that, that would be a significant tempo loss or opportunity loss for PBAT.
Yeah, they should
Engagements are not.
just keep moving here. But we see a lot of forces here now coming in for Soros Contender North, but where only a couple of forces is holding for Pivot, including a Puma Pirat. And yeah, the Marine clears, but they get shot up by the SPG-9s here quite badly, and didn't use their smoke there to protect themselves, so everything else was able to push in here now. EBR might be able to get a kill here on the Fagot. No, it does miss, and yeah, the long reload time, they're struggling. The Commander Lair are moving on foot, and that is a mistake. They should just already try to move up north into Elena at this point, with the recon helicopter scouting for them, and try to get some flanking on here. And the AML-90 not one-shotting a PT-76, that is just sad.
Yeah, the Puma Pirate counterattack coming from the middle here. The standard way to respond when you're reached a breakthrough, when the enemy has reached a breakthrough, when you desperately need to plug a gap, is you send in some helicopters out there. But with the air superiority being with the Polish and the Desant, the Yods opening fire here with both the Strelas and their guns, the Pumas are only going to be doing containment duty at best. The special little, very good unit that they have with the Polish is the Desant Ochrona. Fun fact, Ochrona, a Polish word copied into Russian, not the other way around, for the Ochrona. And this is a 9-man, pretty affordable security and forward deployment and military police unit. So basically they have a top-tier infantry unit that is also providing NP bonus for all of the rest of their units. No need to get an extra card of bad infantry or anything like that. The Ochrona will just move in alongside the Commandosi and all the rest of them. And this gives them a extra level of cohesion recovery, which may not seem sexy, but in practice, especially when you are getting long-standing infantry engagements and infantry attacks, that stuff does translate into a lot of survivability and DPS.
Yeah, the MiG-29's keeping the sky clean here as well, getting a kill into one of Pivot's planes, and we have seen that as a tendency by Pivot, that Pivot tries to get a plane out early without any cover for it, and it has been punished every single game, the last 3 games now, and that is a bit unfortunate. Whilst the Commander Lair here now do a decent job at covering the whole south and including a bit of the reinforcement route here through Elena, but it will be pretty costly to get the counterattack going in the center. And on the old version of 152nd, which this is, getting that going is still somewhat costly, as all these AMXs here now costing 60 points, costing 10 points more. From the points that you would save on these 5, from the 50 points, you could now get a full-on infantry squad with transport on the new patch. And yeah, just getting more bodies in here right now would be really helpful for Pivot. But the MX-13 now pushing forward VIBs and Commander Lairs, trying their best to keep the enemy occupied here in the rear, but I'm not too certain how well that will work out. Crusaders coming in the north, but the MiG-29s dodging the missiles, trying to retaliate, and MiG-29s here now pushing forward onto the Alouette, getting that out of the sky as well. So we have a +2 here for Cyril Skunta.
Yeah, the light vehicle spam attack is the second form of immediately trying to react to an enemy breakthrough, where the helicopters are the first ones, and they will be going in there, and the ranges are pretty low, and the ATGMs are not in perfect conditions to fire, but the suppression damage that can be done by the 23 millimeters is significant. So even with the famously very low quality and old Polish AT weapons, I think they will be able to counter this. Now 4 more AMXs are coming, actually. 6 more. So PBAT really is trying to get this in numbers. Like you said, if this was played post-patch, this would be way more feasible, considering there would be 20% discount on all of these tanks. They do have the 12 rate of fire, so that is something. They can put out damage. It will just remain to be seen if the lack of 50 caliber machine guns and only singular medium machine guns is enough to stun those poles before they get their very funny Mickey Mouse AT weapons, the Komars, up.
Yeah, the ATGM's already coming in, 2 AMX-13 already down, and one more going down right now, 4 already down as well, and this is not going so hot here right now for Pivot, as the Commander Lair and VIBs here trying to hold the line on the other side, but they are struggling there as well. The Beretti has AT weapon as well, as that's the standard for the Polish, having combat engineers that both bring satchel charges and AT launchers, and the T-55AS now just demolishing the building there. We have more T-55s rolling forward, and the AMX-13 don't trade well against those at all. Super 8 and Dart not quite getting the good kill there either, being under attack now, and the AMX-13's just going down in droves. One more going down over there without getting anything killed, and another one dying to a ATGM hit there, as they have basically no frontal armor whatsoever, 3, so even if I can one-shot them. AMX-13's really struggling here. Another one going down, and that's just one remaining here. Pivot, maybe a bit too... Yeah, he was the lowest seed in the Division 1, so it was expected for him to struggle. He came in as the 4th player from Division 2 last season, and it's maybe a slight bit too high, but he for sure gave it a good try, but maybe could have had a bit of an easier time playing slightly more meta units here and more meta divisions, but good games here, but this game is not going his way at all.
I am horrified to learn that the AMX-13 actually had smoke, yet none of them were fired, despite only facing a single ATGM unit and the Metis, if the Metis counts. Like, they would have, frankly, like PBAT, maybe PBAT was kind of giving up at this point, maybe, but the fact that the unit with only 4 missiles engaging like 6 vehicles didn't have a single smoke put up against it, that there was chance.
Yeah,
that has managed to take out gain control of the rest of the map decently well enough, but obviously after trading away all of their counterattacks, this is not going to last.
And yeah, we see more units here now pushing forward. More Hibernetti coming in there as well, with the ZSUs here and the AA setup going in there as well. But at this stage, the KD here is just so rough that a comeback is highly unlikely here for Pivot, as the 50 cal and a couple of AMLs not gonna shift the balance in the north. The ASUs and T-55 is just too good against those light vehicles, and they are all on the front line now. There's no backline shenanigans really going on here at this stage, and Sörleskunta has this under control. As 152nd, you need to be constantly flexing, constantly moving around, and being the one that makes the trouble. And yeah, I think Corpus Teshandovi is pretty good against that. It can face you everywhere and then just be somewhat heavier than you. Like, I feel like Corpus Teshandovi is a nice anti-light division, and it does the job quite nicely here right now.
Yeah, and the Corpus really seems to be capable of doing these take and hold operations against certain divisions, and then against certain others, just completely incompetent. Like, imagine doing this against a division such as, like, let's say 24th, or something that could bring out an Abrams, an M1 IP, something that could have T-80s out here. There is just not enough heavy equipment to fight out heavy equipment. but this is completely overpowered against this mix of light vehicles and helicopters. And infantry hasn't even tried to get out there because PBAT realized this. And yeah, this is knowing the right combinations, knowing the right strats, knowing the right unit interactions, knowing the right place to put your forward deploying AA guns really seem to really seems to pay off. So practicing with a wide number of divisions and a wide number of tactics, obviously something that Suojeluskunta has done, knowing these tactics that might seem overpowered and can make a division such as the Desantovi seem overpowered. But and maybe PBAT didn't realize that the AMX-13s have smoke, considering that they are such old and decrepit vehicles.
And in the end, we have the 2-0 victory here for Suojeluskunta with a really strong victory against PBAT here. And as I said, PBAT really good, strong show last season in Division 2. But yes, sometimes Division 1, if you're not fully prepared for it, can be a bit much. And PBAT, a veteran, I hope we see him next season in Division 2 again, where he will go after the group stage coming out as last place for sure. Well, Suojeluskunta with this W keeps chances up for potentially making it out of the group stage, but only if we will see a win of WoW against Fortitude Fence, which is the last game in the group that still has to be played. And it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. And we will look forward to that one. And yeah, GGVP to these two. And thanks for watching, everybody, for today. This is going to be it. I'm still a bit jet lagged, and the time in Singapore right now is 4 a.m. So I start to recover from it, but I'm still somewhat behind here in time. So I will go to sleep here now and try to get back into the sleeping at night and staying at sleep. And
Every
see you
time
all with
Protoss-
some more of WARNO League in the next couple of days.
Yes, every time Protoss has to use his adrenaline spike to reawaken his heart, it really takes a toll on him. And once again, if you want to see more games, if you want to see both Division 4 kind of tutorial games, as well as the Division 1 and 2 more competitive games, go to watch my VODs. The VODs with the streams, with the casts, are marked as such.
And we will now send you over to... Whom do we send you over, guys? There is a couple of people. Ooh, Animaki is playing Ace Combat 7. That's an interesting one. Let's have a look at that one, guys. Animachi.
Snowwolf is streaming WARNO. Snowwolf is streaming WARNO.
Well, we're already on the way to Animachi, and I want to see Ace Combat, so we're gonna go over there, guys.
Made a nice video, actually, released a video essay on the Ukrainian war. I'm in the middle of listening to it.